time for the 49ers Rush podcast. And here's your host, John Chapman.
What is going on, faithful? It is absolutely great to be with you guys. It is a Wednesday morning. We are recording this, and I have a friend, colleague, drinking partner, and flag football extraordinaire with me today, Brian Carter. How are you, my friend?
Good. I wouldn't call myself a flag football extraordinaire, but I've definitely had a few sacks, and I had a 50-yard rush the other day.
Dude, the Raheem Mostert of the 49ers community. Now, if you have not heard of Brian Carter 99 before, you need to go check out his podcast. It's in the description of this video. Absolutely great stuff. He was on last year in the draft with us. If you go back and if you remember days 1 and day 2, we were live the whole time. Brian Carter crushed it. This dude is a film junkie like myself. And look at that. He's even got the hat. Which autographs you got on there?
That's Fred.
That's Fred Warner, baby. We have Fred Warner and Elijah Mitchell. There we go. And he's got the jersey in the back. So what we're going to do today, this is going to be fun. Brian is one of the contributors to the 49ers Rush draft book, which is coming out Friday. I'm so excited. All Patreon members will get this. Whether you're a $1, $8, whatever, free trial, you get access to that. Friday the 14th is coming out. This dude, he watches a lot of tape. So what we're going to do today, we're going to jump into handful of guys that he's really high on. And some of these guys I'm going to disagree with. And I think what it's going to do is create, one, expose some players that perhaps we haven't talked about. Two, kind of go through what these teams do, whether the scouts and the GMs or the coaches kind of have small disagreements and how they kind of solidify that and how they place them on the big board. That's the idea. So, Brian, let's start it off with one of the guys that you think the 49ers should target, whether that's late, middle, wherever. Take it away, my friend.
I think probably the first one, let's go with Jay Ward.
Ooh, we're going on the back end. Now,
yeah,
this is whenever we talk about these spots, Jay Ward, safety, LSU, I think he could play all over the place. Where do you have him slotted, and why do you think that this is a Niners target, quote unquote?
So he's a little tricky because if you look at certain draft boards, they have him listed as a corner, but when you go and watch his film, he primarily played like a free safety and then a little bit of slot. And I think if you're looking for someone who, again, we like, Hufunga's awesome. He's kind of more of that hybrid strong safety.
Right.
We also have Gibson, but beyond that, we don't really have much future depth at free safety that we know of. We also know that, like you said, they don't really value safety all that much, so I wouldn't expect them to spend a third-round pick. Even though I love Jamie Robinson, I watched him like last night. That guy's feet are crazy.
Safety from Florida State.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going to be picking if he's there at 99, I don't think we're going to go with him. But a guy like Jay Ward out of LSU, he's not expected to go until like the 5th or 6th round. And I think that he has what you need. Being a former corner, I think that he has good man coverage skills for a safety. And I just kind of pulled up my notes over here. I like how physical he was. He attacks at the catch point. So, getting those like pass breakups and stuff. I like how he can plant his feet and accelerate in just a couple steps. And he's not the most like fluid athlete, but when he sees what's happening, he can plant and go for it, and he makes plays on the ball.
That's the thing that I think, stood out for me. I have a 4th round grade on him. So you're talking about somebody that's going 4th to 5th round, but man, here's the thing that excites me about him. One, I love LSU secondary players. I try not to helmet scout, but whenever I see an LSU, they just look clean. I love those uniforms. And he just flashes. And you watch so much LSU tape because they have so many players that are getting drafted. He jumped off the screen continuously. And this dude is a football player galore. So he declared for the draft, still went and played in the bowl game, which is a rarity today. I wouldn't recommend it, but what that tells me, this dude balls. This dude loves his teammates. And the Niners met with him. He's SEC academic honor roll. There's a lot of boxes that you're checking off on this guy as you're watching him. And a 6'1", 188 safety / corner.
Yeah.
The Niners love that body type.
Yeah, and he doesn't have like elite physical traits, but I think he more than meets like the threshold. Like I think he ran like a 4.55, which is plenty good for a safety. You know, as long as you have like good pursuit angles and you can recognize things and like, you know, go when you see what needs to happen, 4.55 is enough. I want to bring up another guy who similar.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Rashad Torrance.
You were big on Torrance. He kept texting me. I loved it.
But this is a guy that ran a 4.7. So him I have more concerns about, but with him it was like real quick feet and just like aggressive firing on the ball. And just you don't love the physical traits of Rashad Torrance, and he's not the best tackler, and sometimes his feet can be a little inconsistent. But just like firing, like when he sees something, he had like the fastest trigger of like pretty much any safety. It's just he ran a 4.7. So kind of balance that out. I have him more as like a 6th round kind of guy. But
he's my safety 14. So yeah, I've got him on the back end of the 5th. We're close on him, and I'm with you. Like, here's the thing that's weird, because do you go for the all-out traits guy, or do you go for the guy whose film screams at you? Because I would argue
go Daniel Scott, but you hate his film.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we're in this safety conversation, Rashad Torrance fits much more with what the 49ers have done at the safety position. He fits Hufanga. Aggressive, a little bit slower. He's an instincts-driven player that can kind of do all those different things. Like, he's fun, man. Like, again, whenever you share a clip, and just so you guys kind of know what we do behind the scenes, Brian will send me a clip. He'll text me. I'll be asleep. I'm an early riser. He's a late film watcher. And I'll wake up in the morning.
I'm like, hey, John.
I'll be scrolling through these clips. And I'm like, oh, I did not watch that game. And so it just brings these players to life. Rashad Torrance, the second out of Florida, he's fun because there's two safeties.
I had that all caps feisty.
Yeah, there's two safeties on that team, and a lot of people have Trey Dean. He was the name. You watch any game, you do not walk away with Trey Dean is the guy the 49ers should target. You walk away, Rashad Torrance. He's a football player. And, you brought up Daniel Scott, which I want to wait just a second because we got a couple questions I want to get to. Bro Montana says, what platform are you going to be doing the draft watch party on? It's going to be on our usual where we do our podcast. So YouTube, Instagram. Oh, check out the mug. I like it. Instagram, all that kind of stuff. I might not be able to do Instagram, actually, because we're going to be having guests on. Wayne's going to be helping with day one. We'll see. I want to get Brian Carter, see if he can join us for a couple, jump in and let us know what he thinks on the Niners picks as well. But every place we always do our shows is going to be there. So days 1 and day 2 for sure will be live the entire time with Niners-centric coverage and all those things. So stay tuned for that. Luke says, John, are you going to KC? I was until the Christian McCaffrey trade, which I'm glad about. But we were going to be throwing a party at one of the local breweries I love there in Kansas City. I went to grad school there. My wife and I did. So I was really excited. But when we didn't have any more picks, I just decided financially, I don't think we're going to be able to pull the crowd that we would need to throw a party. But next year, baby, next year, when the Niners get those picks back, I am pretty excited about that. What's up, Trade Wreck? I love it, man. Another Bride, he says, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. I freaking love it. I love it. So, all right, Brian, take us to another guy that you think the 49ers should target.
Did you want to real quick talk Daniel Scott?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Yeah, because he's a name that gets brought up a lot.
Elite tester, and his film just drove me nuts because he looked like he wasn't even trying. He was just kind of lackadaisical, jogging around.
Yeah,
And
he's the Niners met with him. He's a local kid. He's gonna be at the pro day, which is taking place today. 6'1", 208, exactly how you build a guy. You look at his traits at the combine and you say, holy cow, this is a first or second round pick guy, just because he's incredible. Sorry about that Freudian slip. I'm sure he's a wonderful human. But then you turn on the tape, and I don't know, man. It's one play, he is aggressive. 3 plays, barely even jogging. And so, like, what do you do with this? And I think, Brian, this is important. So let's play this out. You're a scout. I'm a scout. We come together and we both work for the Niners, which we do not, but let's just, these are the conversations that happen. Brian Carter, he comes to the table and says, I don't like this guy's film. But then I come to the table, I'm like, guys, look at the metrics, look at the traits, look at the attitude. This dude is everything. We got to get this guy. And you're sitting there saying, but the film sucks. Teams will meet with players like that to try to figure out, because we'll get Daniel Scott in here. We'll say, look, man, sometimes it looks like you don't care. Can you explain that? Can you help us understand what's going on? Was there a bad game? Were you having a bad attitude? Were you sick? Was something going on with your family? Like, what is it? Because we like you. It's just not consistent. And so then the question becomes this, Brian. If you're picking between 2 players that you have close grades on, would you go with traits over film, or would you go with film and production over traits? If you had 2 guys that were relatively close, what's your tiebreaker going to be? Because a lot of teams will just go traits. You look at the Colts, they are a traits-driven draft team. They have thresholds. If you don't fit their arm length requirements for a corner, they throw you off the board.
I think you would go traits if the effort is there. Because like sometimes the guy has all the physical traits, but he just doesn't have good coaching. Maybe he just has a really bad secondary coach, or he just hasn't been taught how to pass rush on the defensive line, but the physical tools are there and the effort's there. But if the effort isn't on film, then I got to go with the guy who's giving 110% on the field, even if he's not, because at least then he can be on special teams. He's going to compete. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, how are they going to make the roster if they're a late day 3?
Yeah,
right?
Train wreck. You can't catch effort. That was I think that was one of the things I said for Daniel Scott. I was like, can you coach motivation?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. So again, Daniel Scott, another safety prospect. Let's jump out of the safety market.
Want to go like tackle or D line, like O tackle or D line?
Let's do tackle, because I think this is where you and I probably had some of our biggest discrepancies. Not that that's a bad thing. Discrepancies are a good thing. And when these guys have played the amount of games that they have played, people are going to have good game tape. People are going to have bad game tape. And usually the answer is somewhere in between.
Let's discuss the difference in tape, because there was a few guys where I think we watched different games and came away with different conclusions.
Yeah. Let's talk Wanya Morris.
Okay.
Because he was out of OU. The 49ers met with him. Fun prospect. I've seen him everywhere. I've seen people have him 4th round grade, 3rd round grade. I've seen him going late day 3. He's all over the place. 6'4", 307 out of OU. I feel like I've landed a little bit in the middle. I have a 5th round grade on him. He's my offensive tackle number 13. Now you tell me what, because you're higher on him. Tell me why you liked him.
So I had like a 3rd, 4th round grade. And again, you probably know him more than I do, especially because he plays against your team pretty often. And I think I watched like 2 games of him. So it could just be that I watched the 2 good games or above average games, whereas you've seen a whole lot more. You said he's kind of hot and cold. What I saw was good athleticism. He's got the length. I mean, he's 6'5" with 35-inch arms. So plenty of length. I think it's not everything, but it helps a lot. He was a plus run blocker. He liked to dominate people in the run game. He gets downfields fast. He had a decent kick step, not the best, but good movement skills, and usually pretty good balance. And he played right tackle, so
yeah. There's a lot of things that kind of fit with him. He was OU has put out some of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. I mean, good Lord, Trent Williams, Lane Johnson, Creed Humphrey, you can go on and on and on. This coaching staff, the previous, whatever else. It has been a factory. Wanya Morris was supposed to be part of that factory, and I felt like he never hit the ceiling that they wanted him to hit. He was a big-time guy. Now, how do you balance that? He is a very...
Well, you tell me, if you have a guy who has, half the year, he has really good tape and he has the athletic traits that you're looking for, how do you kind of balance that? Because to me, I'm like, hey, he might not be able traits wise, and on the good games, he looks like he could pretty much be a plug and play right tackle. But if he's inconsistent, is that something where you're like, hey, spend a late third round pick on a guy who could do it and just see if you can coach him up to do it over the next 4 years during his rookie contract? Because that's my thought process with the value there. Because it's also a valuable pick at a position where we need depth.
Right. And I think, yeah, the value in the position is perfect. The scheme fit, it's perfect. And again, Niners met with this cat, right? So like this is something that they're seeing. He's going to be around in that area. Is that going to work out for them or not? Because I don't know. If they took him in the third round, I wouldn't be upset. If they took him in the fourth round, I'd be like, okay, I understand. There's just guys that I like that are more consistent, I would say. And so that's why I'm like,
okay. Well, if there's other guys that you like, do you want to compare him to like say Braden Daniels or Nick Salvadori? Because those are two other guys that I like that are projected lower.
Exactly. And it's funny because you say projected lower. I have both ranked ahead of Wanya Morris. I have both of them.
Okay.
And so I've got a fourth round on both Jalen Duncan and Nick Salvadori. So Jalen Duncan,
he's out Braden Daniels.
Oh, sorry, Braden Daniels. I'm higher on him as well.
Jalen Duncan too.
I'm highest on Braden out of all these names we've mentioned. But I got a third, but I think guard's his best spot. So he kind of is one of those guys that's a guard / tackle that the Niners just can't help themselves with. Jalen Moore, Colton McKivitz, Spencer Burford. They love these guys. They don't go after pure tackles.
Yeah.
Will that change? Will that change this year?
So what's your opinion on difference between Salvadori and Braden Daniels? Because to me, Braden Daniels looked more like a natural. He looked like a natural tackle just in terms of like his kick step. Like the very first rep I watched of Braden Daniels, it was like the most beautiful kick step I've ever seen. And then it was a little bit inconsistent. And I felt like he struggled with speed to power. And his worst thing was like anchoring, but he looked so natural. Whereas Salvadori, he just kind of looked solid all around with quick hands and good grip strength.
I think a lot of it has to do with kind of the arm length and height. Salvadori, he's taller, he's 6'6". Yep. He's got the, his arm length. Both their arms are kind of short.
33, I think. 33 so kind of like borderline.
I don't know. And a part of it is, man, watching Old Dominion tape was interesting. To say the least, because it was very clear.
I don't even know where that is.
Yeah, they have two draftable players, and they're both huge. You got Nick Salvadori, who's 6'6", and then you had Zach Kuntz, who's 6'7", tight end running around. And so, like, a lot of times when you watch tape, it's like, okay, which guy am I watching? I got to figure out. No, you turn on the tape, and you're like, oh, it's those two. It's those two giants on this, poor team. But man, so whenever I watch
you say that we're there and it's like the 5th round pick comes up, because we got a few fifths. You've got Wanya Morris, Braden Daniels, and Salvadori all sitting there. Which one would you pick to be a potential right tackle, and why?
Man, I think I would take Braden. Okay. Braden Daniels. I think he's the better player. I have a full round grade ahead. If I just want a right tackle, I think the highest upside is Jalen Duncan out of Maryland. But again, the better player that could be a right tackle, could fail inside, move Spencer Burford back outside. Braden Daniels would be my guy. out of Utah. I really, really do like him.
Dude, he fired out of his stance on run blocking. Like,
Yeah, he's
that
fun,
popped.
man.
It was
He's
just like,
fun.
boom.
And again, these guys are all over the place. And so, like, you can turn on draft podcasts, which I do. I listen to them all the time. I freaking love them. I watch tape nonstop. These are guys that are all over the board because most of those draft shows, they just talk about first and second round guys, which I understand. That's what gets the clicks. I get it. We're doing this from a Niners focus. And we're trying our hardest to create these conversations that are taking place in the Niners war room. These are conversations. O-line coaches, scouts, GM, personnel guys. They're saying, okay, we got to get a tackle. There's no doubt about. You look at who the Niners have met with. They've met with tackles. They're getting a tackle.
These
are the conversations they're going to have.
They met with a lot of offensive tackles, safeties, tight ends, and defensive ends. Like, that's who they've had the most meets with. So you can kind of see where they're leaning for those higher picks.
Yeah. What's up, Niner Sickness podcast? I freaking love it. And again,
yeah, I think, and like you were saying with us not really talking about first, second rounders, I think I maybe looked at like 2 or 3 like projected guys to go in the second round, and it's like if they drop. But I did over 100 write-ups, and they pretty much start around like consensus number 80.
Yeah, Tobias says, what grades do we have on Nick Saldiveri? I have a 4th round grade on him, which I feel like I'm higher. Yeah.
I had a late 4th.
Now, the question becomes like, okay, everybody wants to talk about Cody Mock. I got him 44th overall. Like, we're picking 99th. like
he's not going to be there.
He's not going to be there. Blake Freeland, I've got 53rd. Like,
he might be there, but I doubt it.
Because I don't think power gap teams will have him on their board. They'll throw his name, literally say he is an undraftable player for us because he does not fit our scheme. He doesn't fit everybody's scheme. So, yeah, he could be there. But we're trying our hardest to give you names of actual 49ers fits. And this is where Brian, what's up, Trainwreck? He says, don't forget Tyler Steen. Right before we went live, Brian, you said, and I quote, I don't see what you see in Tyler Steen. Is that a correct assessment?
I didn't say that. What I said was that I'm not as high on him as you are because
you politician. Let's argue.
I mean, I disagree because I think you had like a 3rd round grade on him. And for me, I said what I saw pretty much everything that you saw. My biggest concern was that when I flipped on the tape, I visibly noticed that his short arms, his length was showing up on tape. Guys were getting into his chest. And if that happens at the college level, it's going to happen at the NFL level. Everything else looked pretty good, but to me, that means he's a guard in the NFL. And if he's a guard, I don't want to spend a 3rd round pick on him. So I said, hey, 4th, 5th round pick. He's good, but I'm not going to have a 3rd round grade on a guard if that's what I think he is. I just don't think he'll be successful at tackle. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's good. I'm not going to have that high of a grade on a guy who I think is a guard because his length, it showed on film.
He's 6'6", 321, but he's got short arms.
Yeah. And sometimes you see like measurables and they don't show up on tape, but if they're obvious on tape, then I have to factor that in. So I do like him, but I just think he's only a guard. So I have him as like a 4th to 5th.
Yeah, and like I get that. His arm usage is a problem. I think the athleticism and size is something that, a 6'6", 321 guy, there's not a lot of those type of tackles that move the way he does. You look at his 20-yard shuttle, top 80%. Broad jump, top 80%. The dude is explosive. And bench press, he had 31 reps, which is 90th percentile in the NFL for tackles. Like, he is strong. He is athletic. I think he fits. And so, again, I got a late 3rd on him, which is where the Niners are picking. And you're talking about a need situation, offensive tackle. You're talking about kind of a match and scheme setting. I think it could work. And again, we keep seeing the Niners go after these guys that have played tackle that could fit at guard, but they can put them out there. Daniel Brunskill,
I
Colton
want a
McKivitt.
real tackle. I'm tired of all these short arm tackles that can't really play tackle. So you kick him into guard because now it's like we have Trent Williams, and then we've got like a half dozen guys competing for right tackle because they're all guards.
Yeah. It's a lot that you've got the bodies. You know, you look at Mike McGlinchey, he was a true tackle, but in his first game he ever started, we moved him to guard because we had so many injuries. I don't know if you remember that.
I do. That was the Vikings game with what was it? Was that the game? That was the game where Jimmy had that awesome fadeaway to Pettis.
Yeah, I think it was.
In like the back of the end zone.
Not a lot of those. Not a lot of those. I love this. It's the Alabama hate. Now, this is
I don't
something
hate
that
Alabama.
I do.
I don't.
I can't stand them.
I did not go to any of these colleges, so I have like I don't care. Like to me, it's like, is it good coaching? Is it a good player? You know, I know people have all their stuff, but I really could care less.
And if you look at the meetings that the 49ers have had, there are a lot of Alabama guys. Why? Because the Niners don't trust their coaching staff. And man, one of my favorite things to do every year, because like we fill our draft, my notes, like I go with the schools, height, weight, all those things, because it's all you have access to. Every single Alabama player, which they are loaded, was shorter, every single one of them, by an inch or 2 inches. Some guys were 3 inches shorter than what they said. Alabama just lies. It's just who they. It's freaking Nick Saban. Like
they recruit good players and they have really great good
players.
Coaching. You
they
can't
coach them up.
That.
Right. And so this is where I think the 49ers changed, and I've said this repeatedly on this show, pre-Reuben Foster, post-Reuben Foster. And John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan both said they were not honest with us. They were not honest with us. And this is why teams like the 49ers go back to South Carolina, go back to Arizona State, go back to Stanford, because they get a familiarity and a trust process. I think it was John Lynch who said, you know, when we were scouting Depot, we were talking to the coaching staff and they told us, you got to watch his weight. He'll come back overweight. He'll come back out of shape. So you got to stay on him. Like coaches that are honest with the process. That's not who Alabama is. That's why there are so many of these top 30 visits for the 49ers are Alabama players, because they can't go through the coaching staff. You're not going to learn anything from Nick Saban. It's just not going to happen. So
what was that clip? Like, you can keep asking, but I won't tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. you keep on asking. I ain't going to tell you the halftime. Yeah. Like that dude is just such a piece of trash, man. I'm so not a Saban guy. Amazing coach, terrible human.
Hey, fair enough.
Yeah. And so like the Niners just don't trust him. So part of me says, okay, you got all these athletes, and man, there's a lot of Alabama players I'm really, really high on. But they're meeting with all of them. They're meeting with all of them. You just look at the corner and safety positions alone, which again, I just talked trash on Saban. The dude coaches the secondary as well as anybody. Brian Branch, Jordan Battle, Eli Ricks. Like there are just so many Alabama cats that fit exactly what the Niners do that we'll see. And I think some of those guys might come here. Now, we got a couple questions. What's up, Coach Cruz? He says Rajon Wright will be a dog.
So with him, I have not watched film, but he did have some really good Senior Bowl stuff on the one-on-one.
Yes.
I like the Senior Bowl. It's not everything, but I do like the Senior Bowl because there's a certain level of competition of players there. They're not playing against, like random freshmen and sophomores who are going to end up working at UPS. Like they're going against other, I'm just being honest, they're going up against other quality draft eligible players. So there's a certain level of competition and you can kind of see how they do. And he had some good stuff at the, with some Senior Bowl, but I haven't watched his tape.
It was frustrating. He jumps off the tape 6'2", 193. So fits, this new type of corner that you're going to want to do with, the new DC. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the speed was a concern. But I mean, he fits so much of just what it takes to be in the NFL. Physical, loves to hit, huge body. The speed is a concern, but in a cover 3-quarter scheme, you can kind of get by some of those things.
Yeah.
Sticking with the corner, what's up, David? He says, how do you rate Riley, the defensive back out of Iowa, Riley Moss? I thought he.
I
What's up?
really liked him. I watched your I it's hard finding all 22, and I saw
Yeah,
that
it
you
is.
posted one, so I watched it yesterday. There the only question that I really have with him is the ball skills. Because like the feet, the speed, the transition, his ability to like mirror and match guys, the size, like everything was great. Like just like really fast, crisp feet, change of direction, can stick on guys. The biggest thing that I didn't see was just ball production. And that was, I've heard it and I've only watched one game and they didn't really target him all that much, but why doesn't he win at the point of attack? If he
Mm,
had better ball production, he'd probably be a second round pick. Just because of like the physical traits and how good he is at, like I said, mirroring, matching guys,
he's a
sticking with the
freak.
guys. He's so good with that. But if you're not winning at the catch point and breaking up the ball, then it doesn't really matter how sticky you are because you just get a big receiver on there and he's just gonna body you and win at the catch point. So that was
Yeah.
my only question. But I had like a third, fourth round grade on him. I really liked him. I just want to see him win at the catch point more.
Yeah, I have fourth
What
round
did you
grade here
think?
too. And 6'1", 193 out of Iowa. He's played some physical stuff. He broke the all-time Iowa State record for 110 hurdles in high school. I mean, this dude, he's nuts. Like he belongs. Fun
It's
tape, fun
funny
tape.
seeing a white corner too. Like you don't see those, but he's
Get off
legit.
it. I thought it was
Yeah,
hilarious,
no, he's
watching the
really good.
combine when it was the DB drill and they're panning like the crowd, and I bust out laughing because he was the only one,
Yeah.
and it was just, it's what it is, and yeah, I don't care if he's white or whatever, but like it was funny. I chuckled. I was drinking
So
during the time. It's what it is.
there you go. That always makes things better. I'll sit down with like a glass of wine and spend 2, 3, 4 hours watching film and go through a half bottle, just kind of sipping here, typing up notes.
I love it. Now, one of the
Um,
things that kind of gets people hot more than anything
Running
else,
backs? I was
running
gonna say
backs
there's
in the
there's
third
3
round.
things I wanna go over before we leave is late round running backs, late round tight ends, and then potential defensive ends, if
All
we can
right,
get
well, let's
through them
jump
quick
into the
enough.
running backs. I love this, Brian. Coming prepared, baby.
Yeah.
So, talk to like Niner Sickness Podcast says Kyle just needs to take 3 running backs at 99, 101, 102. He's joking, obviously. But does this trend of third round running backs continue? Do you think, Brian? And then let's
I
jump
hope
into
not.
your late round guys.
I hope not. The only one that I would be okay with picking with one of those picks right there is, if Tajay Spears somehow falls.
Mm,
If he was there and they took him, I'd be like, he's really good and he's a perfect scheme fit. He's
yeah.
fast, he's got good hands, great vision, just like nasty jump cuts. Like he's
Does him
really good.
having 2 torn ACLs on the same knee bother you?
I didn't know that.
Little
I
Frank Gore vibes. One was in high school, one was in
all
2019. So it's been 2 years since his last one,
all I
but
watched was the tape. The tape
tape's
is
great.
incredible. He stood out at the Senior Bowl. He was like the best running back there by all reports. I love him.
Oh,
Yeah, I
look
mean,
at this. We got 49ers royalty, the queen of the 49ers Rush Road Trip. What's up? Victoria Morgan in the house. She says, can't wait. It is absolutely incredible. We have a meeting right after this, Victoria and I.
there
We're
you
trying
go.
to find a spot in Santa Clara to throw our pregame parties the night before. She is working valiantly. And man,
Nice.
awesome to see you in the chat. I love it. So walk us through, Brian. Let's talk about some
So
of these late round guys.
I got like my philosophy on running back is you never draft a running back early, but you draft a running back every year.
Ooh.
So you draft one every year, but you don't do it until like the 5th round because
Shanahan agrees with the second part of your axiom, not the first.
well, it's like think about it. Like in my opinion, running back, so much of rushing success in the NFL is the blocking scheme and the blockers. How much are they generating? The running back itself, it's what are you generating in addition to that? And are you a scheme fit? You can find scheme fits late in the draft if you know what kind of scheme you're running and who you're looking for. And with running backs, like, why are you spending such a high pick when there's much more valuable and expensive positions? So draft one every year. Just don't do it till the fifth. If every year we draft a running back in the fifth, sixth round, I'm okay with that because they're going to wear out. You need 3 or 4 of them on the roster. You just got to find a guy that's a good scheme fit in that fifth, sixth round range. You spend your top 4 rounds on the more important positions that, they're the ones. The offensive line creates value for the running back. The
Right.
running back just has to, like, how big is that hole that they have to run through? That matters more than can they run through a hole? Because a ton of college running backs can run through the hole, but the blocking determines how much runway they have.
Right.
So that's kind
Well
of my
said.
philosophy with running back. I got 3 though.
All right, let's hear them.
3 to consider. Where am I?
Deb says she
So,
just wants guys that can stay on the field. So hopefully these are durable guys.
okay.
Oh, his connection must have cut out. He'll jump back in, but during this time, I can jump into some of these questions and different stuff that you guys got going on. I'm a big Cameron Peoples guy. Is Ishmael? He's one of the rush crush. I'm just gigantic on him. I would be really, really happy if the Niners found a way to grab him. We got the man back here.
No
What's
idea
up,
what
Brian?
happened.
It happens, man. This is a part of the live show. So again, Brian's jumping into his running backs, late round guys that he likes. I'm a huge Cameron Peoples guy. Love that dude.
He's fun.
Yeah, App State. All right, go ahead, take it away, Brian.
Yeah, so guys that I'd be okay in like the 5th round.
Oh, there we go. The internet connection is not working today for the man, and that happens. Right here, David says, I like Abananakanada. I'm sure I'm messing that off. And Keandre Miller from TCU in the 3rd round. A lot of big name guys. I liked them. I did not like them near as much as a lot of other people. The Pitt running back, I had a 5th round grade on, and Keandre Miller, who, I was higher on him at a 4th round grade. But let me just say this. I'm pretty low on running backs. I don't like, again, I have 1 first round running back, Bijan. I have 2 second round running backs, 2 third round running backs. Like, my running back list is low. I do not value them at the top. I depreciate their value much like a lot of teams do, but I do think that those are good fits. Brian, we're going to try this one more time. Glad to have you back. It happens. The internet is a fun process. So
Yeah,
let's get your.
I just closed out like everything else except for my notes and this. I was like, maybe it's the 20 other tabs.
It happens, man. It's just the way it goes. So running backs, let's hear some of your guys you like.
So again, this is like you're drafting late in the 5th. These are guys that I'd be like, I like him. Evan Hull, Eric
Ooh.
Gray, Chris Rodriguez. So that's
I'm
like
highest on Eric Gray out of your list. There we go. So why these guys? How do they fit with the Shanahan scheme? What is it that stood out about those guys to you?
So the guy that I think fits the least, but I have the highest grade on is Chris Rodriguez. Really fun, just downhill, powerful, high acceleration, and he's just going to squeeze through a gap at 220 pounds. He's like 5'11", 6 foot, 220, and he just full speed with really good feet, just hits gaps and just weaves his way through the second level, and just guys just drape on him. And it was every single time I saw him get tackled, it took 3 guys to tackle him.
Yeah.
Like, just the arm tackles, if you hit him from the side or anything like that, unless you have a good grip around his legs or you have 3 guys on him, he's just downhill powering through gaps. I think he's a better fit in like an inside zone or a gap scheme, but just he was so fun to watch, just the power, explosive speed downhill. And I think he could work in the wide zone. One thing that I was trying to watch when watching running backs, because there's not as much wide zone in college. So you want to see if they have the traits for the wide zone. And for me, a lot of that is just ankle mobility and flexibility, because that's how you can like plant and cut. I do think that he has the ankle flexibility to run a wide zone. And again, you get a guy with just,
He's huge.
acceleration and power who breaks a lot of tackles and runs as hard as he does. I think he'd be fun.
Right.
I think he was
I
averaging like 6 yards a carry and just he was awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
5.2 yards per rush. And I saw a lot of him because he was with Will Levis. So, you're going through and, doing a lot of these. Whenever I watch defensive backs, I want to watch them against a good quarterback. So if I could find any tape against Kentucky, Ohio State, Alabama, whatever, I want to value them. So I watched a whole bunch of Kentucky tape just because Will Levis and, the defensive guys. And Chris
Yeah.
Rodriguez, man, that dude's huge. He scares me a little bit.
He's
He's
fun.
big, dude.
I think he would be like the perfect he's similar to like who's the third round running back we took last year that didn't play? TDP, Ty Davis
Yeah.
Price. Similar to him, but I like him better.
Gotcha. Oh,
But
wow.
like
Interesting.
well, you know what I mean? Kind of like a powerful downhill compact runner who doesn't really show much in the passing game. Like very similar, but I like Chris Rodriguez acceleration more. The TDP thing, I didn't really get it. It doesn't seem to be working. We'll see. But he would be in like the similar kind of powerful downhill kind of guy. So
I like it.
he
All
was
right, let's pick one more of Evan Hull or Eric Gray. Which one do you want to highlight? I know it's tough,
um
right? Because you fall in love with these guys.
let's go Eric Gray because I know you don't like him.
I do like him. I'm higher on him than
Okay.
the other three. I do not like OU at all, but no, I liked Eric Gray. I thought
Yeah.
his tape was I liked him a lot. Niners have met with him. Take it away. 5'9", 207, OU running back Eric Gray.
Good vision, good angles, does really well just like navigating through traffic, weaving in between. He does really well like splitting defenders. He's a very decisive runner. I want to say like technical. Like I feel like he's a very technically savvy kind of runner. Like everything he does, he looks like he's been coached up very well in how to play running back in terms of like your feet, your vision, setting up blocks, reading angles, all that kind of stuff. He only has like average speed. I thought he had good acceleration, but just in terms of his feet, his ankle flexibility, and just the way that he was able to consistently make decisions. He was always finding the green and getting plus yardage. And you know, definitely good enough as a receiving option for like checkdowns and stuff.
I thought he was one of the best 3-down backs in this draft that could do it all because
Yeah.
he doesn't have to come off the field. Now, Luke asked this, who are the home run threats at running back? That's what we're missing. It seems like Shanahan has just said no. He doesn't want to do this anymore. And if there's one of the guys, again, Tommy similar, he says, are we really switching to a power rush because we don't have that speed Mostert type? They've gone away from this. Shanahan has changed his valuation of certain positions to where he wants durability and chain moving. It's what it is. Now, if you want that home run threat,
There's
Kenny
two speed
McIntosh
guys.
stands out
Two
to me.
speed guys that I can think of, and we don't have to get into them. Keaton Mitchell out of East Carolina, Israel Abakanda, really, really fast guys, but I have a lower grade on them for different reasons. Keaton Mitchell's 180 pounds, and Abakanda just doesn't quite have it all put together. Potential's there, but hasn't quite put it together in terms of just like,
Man,
again,
I
like the
forget the
feel for the
game. It might
technical
have been
aspect.
Louisville or Virginia Tech where Abakanda had like 4 rushing touchdowns, like 300 yards. So you watch that one game and you're like, holy cow, this dude's a
Yeah.
Heisman winner. You watch the other games and he comes back down to reality a little bit.
No, he doesn't have any power to his game, and you'd want more power from a guy who came in at 5'10", 215. Like you want more
Right.
power, but he seems like he has a weird build. Like he's kind of slender and high cut with skinny legs. It seemed like Abakanda, all of his weight was in his torso, and he didn't have any
He
like
looks
push
weird.
to him. Yeah.
Yeah, he looks weird, but when he gets going, he's
Oh, yeah.
not stopping. He's going to hit his head on the goalpost. Trainwreck comes in and says D-line is the 49ers moneymaker. You wanted to jump into edge, some late round edge guys before we got out of here.
Yeah.
So entertain us, teach us your wise ones, Brian. Help us out with these guys, man.
I'm gonna pop in and do a guy that he just really popped on film, but a lot of people don't have him going until 6th or 7th round. Lonnie Phelps out of Kansas. Are you
You like those
familiar
Big
with
12
Lonnie
players,
Phelps?
man.
Are you familiar with him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
he's interesting. 6'2", 244, Kansas. What'd you like
Yep.
about him?
Well, he's crazy fast. Did you mention what his speed and his bench press are?
He ran a 4.55 40 and bench press 31 reps.
31. So
Got a John Chapman on our hands over here.
So he doesn't have very much in terms of like an anchor, and he's not going to be a power. Hey, what's up, Cynthia? He doesn't have a lot of an anchor, and he doesn't have much power, but just in terms of speed and burst off the edge and hands, those are the two things. Like when I watched him, it was super twitchy, fast off the line, and his hands were crazy fast. So if he was winning with that first hand move, he was winning, and he was in the backfield because it was firing, pow. He's got
quick,
strong
man.
arms, real quick hands. And if he wins like that, like you got a 4.55 guy rushing down the quarterback.
Yeah, I think worst case is he's a pass rush specialist, which the Niners.
That's all I see him as. I don't think he's more than that unless he can build some strength. But I mean, dude, if you're talking like a 5th or 6th round pass rush only, like speed rusher, get him in a wide 9 and just like fire him off with his hand speed. Honestly, was what surprised me the most was the hand speed. His hands were so quick that he was winning almost every single rep against offensive linemen unless they were like really good.
Yeah, he's fun. My comp for him is Yannick Ngakoue, who I really want the Niners to sign. They just ain't got the money. Logan says
I had a late round 4th grade on him, but I know a lot of people have him as like a 6th or 7th. But
I've got 6th on him.
Pass rush guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Let's go with one more edge guy, and then we'll close out. I think you had another position you wanted to hit on, but I'm with you, Logan. He says, I want to draft 2 edge rushers in this draft. I'm with you. That's what I want to do as well.
Okay, how about here we go. Edge rusher, late rounder, Tavius Robinson out of Ole Miss.
We even got this in the chat going on. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I liked him. Good size, good frame. He's like 6'6", 260, and that's exactly what the Niners like. Is they like him that 6'4", 6'6", like 260 range. I thought he had some decent moves. He's a development guy. He has the traits. He has the thing that frustrated me was I didn't like how he was coached, because so much of the way they coached him, they had that kind of like read and react, like defensive end, where you're not firing off the ball and attacking, the outside shoulder of the offensive tackle and like attacking that edge, pursuing the quarterback. It was they hike and then you watch and then you're like standing up and then you're trying to like hand fight. And I couldn't stand that.
They put a precedent on stopping the run. And, I have in my notes, teams that value stopping the run will be very high on him. He is a strong side defensive end, not your situational pass rusher. You put him and Lonnie Phelps together, you got everything. Yeah. You got it all. So
I will say that while like 70 to 80% of his reps were that, and I hated it because I'm like, that's not how we play. When he did fire out of his stance, it was explosive. So he's got that first round, like explosive, or not first round, but that first step, burst off the line, exploding into the offensive tackle. He's got that. He needs to develop some pass rush moves. He needs a little bit more of an anchor in terms of setting the edge. But the traits are there. The explosiveness is there. I think he's a good guy where you get him late and you say, hey, we've seen 20% of these guys' reps are really good. And if we just focus on that and hone that with Chris Kosaric, he could be a contributor at defensive end. So I do like him.
Right.
I
Yeah,
put
I'm
him
with
as
you there.
like a fifth, sixth round kind of range.
I like this. Look at this. This is a great question. From Breaking 80. I like that. Appreciate the super chat contribution. He says, who would you pick between the following? Harrison, Diaby, Young out of Tennessee, or McGuire? This one's easy for me.
To me, it's between Harrison and McGuire.
Ooh,
Diaby, I didn't like his tape.
man, I
Physically,
liked him.
he has the perfect
Yeah.
frame. I didn't like the trait. Young, I know a lot of people like him, but I think he's a 3-4 outside linebacker. And I thought there was only one way that he won. I didn't see multiple ways that he would win. And to me, that just screams again like late round pass rush only kind of guy. So I'm a little lower on Young than some people.
Yeah, and again, all these guys that you have are interesting because Young, he's your ultimate speed off the edge guy. That's kind of what he does. McGuire, one of the best run stuffing defensive tackles out there. Diaby, traits. Harrison, experienced jack of all trades. Me, I'm going to disagree with Brian here. I would take Young out of Tennessee just because I think it's what the Niners need. Just that speed edge rusher. I don't think you can get enough of them. But like again, if I'm looking for who's going to get the most snaps and most playing time, that's probably going to be McGuire. Who has the most upside? Probably Diaby. Most experience,
I did
Harrison. So
Harrison. I really liked Harrison. I know that he didn't quite have the production, but I mean, you can't coach his build and athleticism. He's not great turning the corner, but I mean, his first couple steps, he's so fast. And if you can, again, coach up his hands a little bit more, the dude's a monster. I mean, he's
yeah,
like what 6'5" with 36-inch long arms, and he ran like a 10-second 100-meter or something. Like
he's got a
freak.
lot.
And he's only 21. So
Yeah.
you can coach him.
And again, you can kind of do some of that with what the Niners have currently. The problem is the most shallow position, the most impact need, like you need snaps now is the edge position for the 49ers. I think of any position. I think their least depth is at the edge spot. I think they've got
Take
some good
two.
pieces. But yeah, you got
Yeah.
Bosa, you got Cleveland Farrell, and you got Drake Jackson. That's it. You got to get bodies there.
Take two. I say take one
Same.
with your third, your late third, take an edge, and then take a fifth, sixth round edge.
Same.
Yeah.
And
All right. Can I do one more?
yeah, I love it, man. Dude, Brian,
Seventh
if
round
y'all, I
tight
hope
end.
this is coming across the film, the video, the audio, whatever. This guy breathes this stuff, lives, breathes it. Like, I freaking love it. That's why I wanted him on the show. Yes, Brian, you could do another
Seventh
one.
round tight end. All right.
Ooh.
Trey Lance's old teammate, Noah Gindorf out of North Dakota State.
He's so fun. And it's weird that he's called a tight end because he's freaking monster, man.
Yeah.
Like, if
He's
you
like
wanted to make him a
6'6",
tackle, I would say, yes, you
263.
can do that.
But he can catch.
He can.
I think
He can.
I sent you those clips because I was watching it, and the one thing that I'm a little fuzzy on, and my biggest kind of question is he only played 3 games last year. So I don't know. I didn't look up to see if there was an injury or something, but there was only 3 games. So I only was able to find 1 game of him playing last year.
Hmm.
And then previous to that, he just never had a lot of production. It does seem like North Dakota State has like 15 fullbacks and tight ends. I feel like every time you put on the film, it's like, hey, there's 3 different tight ends in, and they have 3 different fullbacks. But he
Right.
didn't have a lot of production, and I don't know why he didn't play last year. I'm
It was
guessing
an
it's
ankle
injury.
injury. Yeah, he
Okay.
had an ankle and missed 12 games. He only played 3 games, like you said.
Yeah. But in terms of what I did like you said, he's huge. 6'6", 263. He is a powerful run blocker. Decent athleticism. I don't think he has great athleticism, but you're looking at like a really powerful run blocker. In terms of his catching ability, basically, I just want to see like, hey, can this guy catch? Can he be a receiving option? Because obviously he can block, but you got to be able to do both. I don't
Right.
know if he's ever going to be able to run routes. You're probably going to have to scheme him open, whether as like a check release kind of thing, or the way Shanahan schemes guys open, where it's like, hey, fake a block, and then we'll have you coming around on the other wheel route over there, wide open. But the ball skills are there. Um, I think the game that I watched, he had 3 catches, but every one of them was impressive. One of them, he had a screen that he caught, and it was much above his head. He had to reach up, jump up, grab the ball. And then he broke like 3 tackles because he's huge. It's hard to tackle a guy who's 260 pounds running,
Yeah.
you know? The second catch, it was behind him, so it was like a check down, and he like checked, he turned, and then the ball was back here, so he had to like reach, turn this way, and catch it while running. So I was like, okay, that's 2 good balls. And then the third one, I think I sent you the clip as well. The dude like jumps and does a 360 catch, like above his head, jumps 360, catches it, lands, then runs for an extra like 5 or 10 yards. He's not fast,
No.
but he can block, and he's got good enough ball skills that he can catch a ball. And to me, like 7th round tight end, why not?
For him, a lot of it, you brought up, he still couldn't work out at the combine because that ankle's still an issue. So teams that meet with him, this is going to be a medical thing. So he's going to have a red tag on the big board for every team. Do you feel comfortable with his ankle? Do you not? He's got to be a late day 3 guy anyway. So if you're a team, and again, Tobias, I like this question. He says the least depth is tight end. We have Kittle, who misses 3 to 4 games, and then we have no one. Currently, you have Dwelly signed, you have Charlie Warner signed, and you have Kittle. You only carry 3 active tight ends. Do we need
And
more tight ends? Yes.
Dwelly and Warner are both on like it's
Yeah,
like their
super
last
cheap.
year. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
So
their
yeah,
last year.
tight end would be number 2 for me as far as depth goes. But man, I will push back against this. Kittle misses 3 to 4 games a year. That's only happened twice in his entire career that he has missed that many games. Yeah, he misses 1 or 2 games. That's more appropriate. But he has only missed 3 or more games in a season twice in his 6-year career. So I don't know where that narrative keeps coming through and pushing through. Yeah, he plays physical. He's going to miss games.
It seems like he's always banged up, but he plays through it because he's tough and awesome.
Right. Tough and awesome. I freaking
Yeah.
love that man.
Yeah,
Victoria
and
says,
we
great
did a
show. I'm
lot
learning so
more.
much over here taking notes. Gosh, she's the best, man.
Yeah. And we both did a lot more tight ends. I think I had like 10 or a dozen different like tight end write-ups. Just John told me beforehand, like, hey, let's pick guys that we didn't talk about. So don't talk about Shoemaker and
Right. I
whatnot.
saw
And I
that
was
in the
like, all right.
comments. I wanted to stay away from guys we have talked about. Another good question from David. Guys, we brought in DTR, the quarterback from UCLA, for a private workout. Which round do you think that he gets drafted in? Did you do any QB tape or?
I didn't. So the only thing I have to go off is just what I've heard from different people. I know like Chris Sims was really high on him. I think he had him as like his number 5. I've heard other people say that he's like a 6th round prospect.
That's where I got him. I have a
I
middle
think
6th round grade on him.
I will say though, quarterbacks always go higher just
Yep.
because it's such a valuable position. And if you do hit on a guy, it's huge value. So I could see potentially a team being like, hey, the film is kind of inconsistent, but he's got a lot of experience and he's got good traits. I know that much. He's got good physical traits and a lot of experience. I could see a team being like, hey, you know what? 3rd round, why not? Let's go for it. He could develop into something, but I don't think he's going to go in the top 2 rounds unless somebody just sees something that nobody else sees.
Right.
Yeah.
I like this
Like
question.
you said, probably a 6th round grade. Just
Yeah.
quarterbacks always go extra.
They go
high.
up. They go up. Tobias, would you guys trade up for Sam Laporta? Yes, I would. He's my number 3. I got a rush crush on him. He's my number 3 tight end. I got Michael Mayer, Darnell Washington, Sam Laporta, but that's because I value blocking. The name that didn't come off the board there is Dalton Kincaid, who a lot of people have a 1st round grade on. That dude is a receiver that's just big. He is not a tight end. Like, there's a place for that in the NFL. I am not sure that's on the 49ers. I love Sam Laporta, but are you willing to trade up for another 2 tight end?
I have not watched him because, like I said, I didn't want to watch guys that I would think wouldn't be there when we're picking. And I think he's gone 20, maybe 30 picks before we go. He's probably going in the early 3rd. And
you want to know where I have him? You're gonna laugh. I feel like this is like I have him 38th overall.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Really high on this dude. But
yeah, I don't think he's there. That's why I didn't watch him.
yeah, smart. Coach
I
Cruz,
only have so much time.
I know that's the thing, man. It's a lot. Coach Cruz says Brock Purdy going to get a few extra quarterbacks drafted this year.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, I'm listening, you know, again, I listen to all these draft podcasts and shows and YouTube and watch other people watch film and things like that. And on all these shows that are not Niners based, who's the next Brock Purdy? Who's the next Debo? Who's the next Kittle? Like, it's funny. Who's the next Fred Warner? Who's like, we have these stalwarts at so many positions because the Niners have just dominated drafting. Every team misses, but what the Niners have done is special.
Incredible how what Shanahan of Lynch have done with this team. Like they took one of the worst teams and the worst rosters in the NFL, and now we're consistently like top 5 Super Bowl contenders. Even though the quarterback is a giant question mark almost every year, they've done so good at scouting and drafting and developing and coaching up players. It's I feel like it's a really fun time to be a Niner fan. I know that there's always like people who like to stir the pot and create drama, and whether that be for clicks or if you're just naturally like a negative, pessimistic, nitpicky person. I'm over here like, we were just in the Super Bowl. We've made the NFC Championship in back-to-back years. We've got freaking more Pro Bowlers than like any team in the NFL. We're stacked on both sides of the ball. We have great coaching, and the coach is so good that everybody's poaching our coaches. Like,
Yeah,
it's a good time to be a fan. You can always nitpick if you want. And I know some people are like, I don't care. They should be fired unless they win a Super Bowl. Look at the last 4 years and tell me that they need to be fired.
Yeah, it's
Explain
ridiculous.
the last 4 years.
Now, update real quick tonight for all of our Patreon members. We have our 1994 Patreon watch party going on 5:30 tonight. And this is a fun one. This is the 49ers versus Falcons game. This is the Deion Andre Rison slugfest. This was the game where the switch was flipped and the Niners just went freaking ham. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for that. All Patreon, it's already been posted. We're going to be hanging out on Zoom watching the game. Brian's been able to make it. Hopefully you and Mara can stop by. But Brian,
we'll see. She's kind of puffy right now.
Yeah, that's
she
right.
had a wisdom
she's all right.
taken out yesterday. She's doing all right.
Let's throw this out there real quick before we head out. Brian, where can we follow you? Where can we subscribe to your show? Help us out. Oh, he's pointing at it. For the audio listeners,
this one is Spotify, Apple Pod.
Brian Carter 99.
This one is Twitter.
Perfect. Brian PNW 99. So just remember that. But that's going to do it for us today. Brian, thank you so much.
Territory up here.
That's right, man. Yeah, he is. He's Pacific Northwest. There it is.
Yeah.
Brian, you're going to hear from him some more, especially we'll have him back on, especially probably after the draft, break down some of these late round guys because he's done the work. But thank you, Brian. Really appreciate your time and everybody else.
For sure.
And until next time, that's going to do it for us today. Stay strong, faithful.